practice routine?
Practice routine, good question. So back a couple years ago when I was first starting out, I played like all the time, and I was like, really didn't have a practice routine, and I just played all the time, and like soaked up went online, YouTube, slowed things down, learned as much as I could. There was a few exercises that really helped me and still help me to this day, and they're really simple. Like the main one I would say is something called the folded scale, and it's basically based off a regular G scale, But instead of going straight up and down, it kind of folds over on itself and sounds like this. And so on, all the way up, then down. And I would use that to build up my speed, work on that with speed, and that's the main part of my practice routine besides digging into my heroes playing.
Yeah. You refer to that as the folded scale.
I do, yeah. I picked that up from Christopher Henry.
Okay. No, that's a great example because, practice, the goal obviously is to free the imagination. I don't know who was it said it, but technique frees your imagination, especially if you're playing music that relies on improvisation. But the example he just gave of a folded scale, or sometimes they'll call that a sequence. Any pattern. We were just picking on the trailer back there, and maybe we'll get to it in another minute, but one of the popular picking tunes is Blackberry Blossom, and that represents Wyatt was doing that, that sequential pattern.
In it.
In ascending motion of Blackberry is simply a pattern of
same thing down with some variation, of course.
And then it breaks off into something different, but you can hear right in there, if you're practicing looking for different patterns in a scale, well, okay, here's ascending, 3 steps up and back. There it is in that tune. And there's so many different patterns, for people that are beginning and kind of working out. It's certainly a one thing of straight up ascending scale. But as somebody hipped me once the idea of practicing things in all 4 directions. We won't go into all of it, but that's ascending. Well, the inverse is true. And you're going to come, all combinations of that. As we saw Blackberry, it's just that descending. You could break that, taking it further and further. Obviously there's endless things and routines you can do, but instead of a stepwise motion, patterns of doing skips in third. Or the reverse of that. So, this is why we don't get outdoors much, right? Why? We're sitting at home doing that. Any other follow-up questions on that? As far as are you learning and playing, or looking for new workouts?
Oh, I got the G scale down.
That's a good place to start.
Well, and again, that's a great workout, and you can see the dexterity, that it provides for both your left hand, but also your right hand as you're moving through that. So again, there's so many. You'd have to sit down and make a list and kind of work through them, but
and another important exercise is to make sure you get your closed positions down and practice like a G sharp or a B flat scale, because you can play that anywhere on the neck, that same position, and get a different key, and that's comes in handy for playing in those odd keys.
you know, absolutely, eventually you want to work and master that in all keys. Of course, there are some, you know, depending on the style of music you're playing, that you don't encounter that often. But even just, you know, when you say mastering the G scale, well, even before you move on to different keys like A, B flat, and everything else, you can go into what Wyatt referred to as closed positions, where we're not using open strings, still essentially staying in that G scale, but covering your neck. So what we were doing before is open. Well, I can cover all the same notes, G up through G, key signature, just an F sharp. That's more theory than we want to get into today. But in my next position, still staying in G, but I'm starting on my next available note A. These sometimes are called modes and, you know, different practice things, but I'm still playing that same set of scale tones, but just all through every position on the neck. And of course, the folding scale with the sequential patterns apply. You're just then not employing open strings, which means your fourth finger is getting the extra work in.
Exactly. You want to pick some Blackberry Blossom?
Yeah, since we talked about that, why don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You want to start the slow, funky part there? Like we
You
did
go ahead and
before?
start it. I started the last one.
All right.